Hello from the Glenview Club in Gulf, Illinois, and welcome to day two of the APTA Network's coverage of the 44th Annual Chicago Charities, the second Grand Prix event of the 2017-2018, brought to you by the APTA's national sponsors, Viking, Save-A-Tree, and Uline, and of course, eNet, our live stream production partner. I'm Mark Fischel along with Patty Hogan, and we're getting ready for the women's finals. So, Patty, terrific match between the number one seeds and the number two seeds. Number one seed Gabrielle Niculescu and Liz Cruz, and they're playing Cynthia Dardis and Amy Shay. Tell me your thoughts on the match.
Okay, well, Cynthia Dardis is from Stamford, Connecticut. She is the head platform tennis professional at the Lake Club in Connecticut. She's teamed up for the 1576th time with Amy Shay from Wilton, Connecticut. Shay is the platform tennis director at Woodway Country Club in Connecticut, and they are up against the number one seeds Liz Cruz. And Cruz is a former national champion, as you can see on your screen, and she is director of platform tennis at Brooklawn Country Club in Connecticut. She's teamed up with a national champion, Gabriella Niculescu, and Gabby, as we call her, is the director of platform tennis at the Millbrook Club in Connecticut. This will be the fourth head-to-head with these two teams, and be hard for us to pick anyone other than the number one seeds in this match who have not lost a match in their head-to-head with Dardis and Shay.
Now, in fairness, Dardis and Shay are getting closer. They played at Patterson, the first tournament of the year, straight sets, and then they played in our first Grand Prix, the Steel City Open, in a pretty good match, a three-setter. So you have to feel that Shay and Dardis are feeling better about their chances, but that's going to be one of our Viking keys to victory as we go through it, which is their belief out here, Patty.
And they always have the belief, and you can never count them out. It's a little bit of a cliche there, but it's totally appropriate for Dardis and Shay because it always seemed like they come on the court and find a way to win. And one of the first keys to this match and the outcome is that Niculescu overhead mark, which she hits Mach 90. She loads up from her legs, her arms, huge backswings, huge follow through, and it's a winning shot for her out here against every player in the women's game.
Yeah, I would say it's the most dominant shot in women's paddle right now. She hits the roller, she hits the hard overhead, and she's given Cynthia Dardis fits with it in the past. And Cynthia Dardis' ability to cover the court and prevent herself from getting caught too deep, because Dardis likes to play deep in the court, but that's the great opportunity to hit that hard overhead. Now, continuing with our keys, Patty.
Well, we talk about tempo all the time. Dardis and Shay feel that in order for them to break through and get a win here, they're going to have to slow this thing down to a crawl mark, which sometimes is not what people want to see, but I think it's their only chance to win this match.
Yeah, look, if this was a tennis match, it'd be over in about 20 minutes. So if you can play tennis out here, then Cruz and Niculescu are going to win relatively easily. And that's why Dardis and Shay have to lob well, wait for their opportunities, and push them off the net. Our next key is belief, as you and I talked about, having lost to this team 3 times in a row. Dardis and Shay seem to have belief against anybody.
They do, and I think that unfortunately for them, Cruz and Gabby, I mean, they have such a strong belief. So all 4 players are phenomenal. They're at the top of our sport. And thankfully, the rain has moved out, and we have a little window here, Mark. So I don't think the rain will play a role as much as it did this morning in the semifinals.
So our last key, Patty, is endurance. So in their semi-final, Cruz and Niculescu played for a little over an hour. Dardis and Shay played for 3 hours. Dardis and Shay are giving away a couple of years, maybe 3 or 4.
Couple of decades.
Decades, right? Years, not decades. How do you think that's going to play into today?
I mean, I would be surprised if Cynthia and Amy can get off to a quick start here. They really just had about an hour. They were rushing around, going back to their house, getting their luggage, trying to make sure they get out of the airport tonight. And so I think it's going to. I'm surprised we're going to get underway so quickly, but we do have a chair umpire to limit the warm up to 10 minutes.
Robbie Laboon is our chair umpire, one of the top APTA umpires. Patty, why don't we take this moment to talk a little bit about some of the APTA initiatives? Obviously, there are a number of league players out there. I know there are viewing parties. I assume there are lots of people at the Millbrook Club where Amanjot Singh is the head pro, and Gabby Niculescu works for him. So I think a lot of people there are watching in Connecticut, as all four of these women are in Connecticut.
I mean, Connecticut has the cream of the crop in terms of some of the greatest, most talented pros in the country, some of the most amazing volunteers who really have stepped up to the plate in a leadership way for the Fairfield County Women's League. Leela, Joanne, Mary Ellen, and Lori, shout out. Tiernan, our region president there.
Tiernan Kavana.
Tiernan's the best, and all these women are working really hard. I'm so excited about the new initiative where we will have B rankings this year and a B national championship in New Jersey in March, and it's really a great way to involve all these club level players and paddle fans around the country and give them a legitimate way to earn a ranking. And you know, they're not going to cut farewell against the firepower of these incredible players on display here in the final, but they can have their own championship now, and Tiernan's a huge force behind making that happen.
Now, in addition to that championship, we also have potentially a team championship. You want to talk a little bit about that?
Well, that's another exciting thing from Pete Rose and John Noble here in Chicago launched that effort last year. And one of the benefits of having your league be an APTA member league is that you can get your teams together who compete during the year, extend your season of play, come out here in April and kind of compete USTA team style in a team national championship. So 280 players played in that last year, Mark, as you know, and I think that number is just going to keep growing.
Patty, if someone is out there listening and wants to participate, how will they go about doing that?
I can give Pete Rose's cell phone number out now, but I'm not sure his wife would appreciate that. So they can go to www.platformtennis.org and look up the tab about league championships and talk to their pro. And we have so many talented PPTA certified pros around the country, and hopefully they can work hard to start involving their teams in league ending a national championship.
Okay, the players are taking their warm-up serves. We should take a moment to thank Shannon Vincent, APTA Grand Prix coordinator and tournament director this week, doing her normal stellar job. APTA Executive Director Ann Sheedy, who's absolutely wonderful, pays me $20 every tournament to say that. And then, of course, Isabel Caban, our IT Coordinator, who always wants to be in the spotlight.
Mark, she pays me $30 to say nice things.
I'm going to have to renegotiate my deal, Patty.
Cruz and Niculescu will be serving first.
So, Patty, what do we look for early to tell us that Dardis and Shay are going to be in this match?
I think their willingness to just drag this thing out, slow down the pace of play, which we're going to have a lot of these little mini discussions.
So Liz Cruz is serving, and she'll be serving to Cynthia Dardis in the purple jacket. There's the big overhead from Niculescu. That was a good keek, Patty, that you picked out.
Well, we both have watched a lot of paddle matches and seen Gabby's dominant play because of that one shot.
Yeah, I remember a couple of years ago, Roxy Enica really hurt Cynthia Dardis with that shot, hit her maybe 5 or 6 times.
It's a great sign right there for Dardis and Shay. Amy came out firing, found a pretty big opening up there through the middle. But Gabby and Liz just let the ball go through. They're really happy to play from the baseline. And Mark, I have always felt that make that net team early in a match play the net a ton. It's much more work at the net than to play the baseline once you've got control of the screens. Do you find that you get more tired playing the net, Mark, than the baseline?
I get tired walking on the court. But, you know, you see Niculescu's really improved wire play here, and she shows a lot more patience, much more willingness to lob, to set up the drive, as you see right there. And that's really made her a much better player. Not that she needed much help, but she's gotten even better.
30-15.
As she finds the forehand volley. Shay is one of the best in the country at doing that, at finding her opponent's forehand volley. And there's that same hole she found before.
30 all.
Well, that's great variety from Shay on the forehand.
30-40.
I think it's really important for Dardis and Shay to get off to a good start.
Deuce.
I think she's trying to hit her partner with that forehand, or a little frustration early.
She missed it there, but Amy's ability to hit those spot drives was really one of the keys in them being able to pull out that semifinal win over Hanisch and Van Starenburg.
Yeah,
I watched Amy just move her drive around, and she got that cross-court shot where it looked like it would have been a super low percentage shot for anybody else, and she found it every time late in that match.
And Dardis and Shay will switch every time, so Shay's overhead is in the middle, and Dardis will be hanging on the net. She's a very good volleyer.
Late in that third set, I saw the signature Cynthia Dardis drop shot mark out there. We'll look for that a little bit, of course. Amy's the player hitting the ball. Amy Shay in the white jacket. And that's Gabriela Niculescu in the ad court. Liz Cruz out of the deuce court corner.
Shay catches the nick.
Advantage,
Break
Miss
point
Shay.
number 2.
Do you think breaks are significant? Will
No.
be a significant thing in this final, Mark?
No. I think the ability to get off to an early start is
Game.
important.
Dardis
Critical
Shay.
for
which they
Dardis
did.
Shay.
First game of the first set.
You know, one of the things is we've seen the maturity of Niculescu as a player is her discipline and her willingness to take that forehand, which she can hit as hard as that overhead, if not harder, and being really disciplined. And I love that she'll go right at players at net, and some just can't withstand that power. She doesn't go around people, she'll go right at people.
Okay, Cynthia Dardis to serve. Niculescu will always be looking for the blitz.
I'd be curious from the crowd in Fairfield County who their pick is. Send me a text. Tell me your pick.
Love 15.
Because these guys have played already in 2 finals this year, nerves are not even a factor. They
30.
both sort of were hopeful and expected to be here in the final, and both teams look ready to go.
And at least right now, it's actually a pretty nice paddle day. No rain falling, cloudy and overcast, decent temperature for platform.
One of the keys for Dardis and Shay was a pretty effective overheads into that ad court corner to Niculescu's backhand. Try to keep her pinned in there. Because when she gets that short forehand off the deck, it's deadly.
Or the deep forehand or the medium forehand. Her forehand is deadly everywhere. One of the things that makes this team so good is they know their roles. Liz Cruz is out there to set up Gabby. Not that she can't make the play on her own, but what makes them effective is when she sets up her partner.
15-30.
I know you love watching all of these four women play. I know that the smooth nature to Cruz is just something that so many people strive for. She just stays positive, pretty mellow. Every match I've ever seen her play.
Well, it's a great compliment to Niculescu's intensity. Gabby is just a tremendous athlete. Best athlete in the women's game today.
30 all.
You think so?
Her volleying, her movement, I think it's off the charts. She's one of the best athletes ever to play the game.
I have about 6 picks in the women's game who I think are phenomenal athletes, Mark.
Only 6,
30,
Patty?
40.
Only 6.
Does that include Ann Sheedy?
Well, Tiernan Kavan is one of them.
I knew that.
No, there's so many talented players out here, and
Great lob from Niculescu there. And here comes the hard overhead. Great job from Dardis to block it. Maybe Shay got away with that drop shot. She should leave those to Dardis. She hits her signature drop shot to get them
Deuce.
back to deuce.
but I don't mind a short volley on purpose, Mark, if you feel like the baseline team is kind of playing flat-footed with their weight a little bit closer to that back screen. Not
I
their
agree.
body, but if the footwork's flat, I think it's a good play to pull them in out of their comfort zone.
As long as it's short and low. There's some of that movement that we talked about.
And there's the switch so that Amy Shay can just start hitting that little nice slice overhead. Marcus, you're learning to hit your overhead like Amy. What are some of the keys for you to get it?
Letting the ball
Advantage
drop.
Dardis.
I often think it's a misnomer to call it an overhead, because you compare it with the shot in tennis and it's got absolutely nothing to do with that shot. Game point for Dardis and Shay. Big forehand from Niculescu. And those are the points that are going to determine who
Yes.
wins today.
And you didn't really see the net team, Dardis and Shay, adjust at all. They knew the drive was coming. Gabby loaded up, took her paddle back, and they both just kind of stood there.
Playing I formation against Cruz.
Advantage, Miss Dardis.
Another opportunity to close the game out. Boy, there's such a premium on lobbing when you're playing Niculescu.
You've got to get that lob where she's pushed a little bit beyond the service line. Right about there, then Gabby's kind of forced to hit a neutral type of overhead.
I think the other part of Niculescu's game that doesn't get enough credit is her volleying. Great play from Dardis there. Makes her pay for the hard overhead.
Game.
And it's
Dardis
2-love.
Shay, they lead 2 games to love. First set.
This is a great start for Dardis and Shay. I mean, how do they do it, Mark? They're almost as old as we are. No, to their credit, they play a ton of paddle. They train all the time. Their mental fortitude makes up for decades, age differences. All those things go out the window when because they are 2 of the greatest competitors in our
I'm
game.
just talking.
I think it also helps that they're teaching professionals and on court a lot, have a paddle in their hands. Okay, Gabby Niculescu to serve to Cynthia Dardis. Little confusion at the net there. Gabby cocked the paddle but didn't fit it.
Love 15.
I love the Cruz volley. See how she just held that paddle head up? Real firm grip, Mark. Didn't matter that Amy took the return right at her. She just defended it. No swing. See where Niculescu is hitting 2 overheads in a row. That's the short one. She gets to put a little more spin on it.
But her roller's gotten so good, you see her hitting it from behind the service line.
15 all.
That's one of the things the better the player, the deeper they're able to still go with something fairly aggressive on the overhead. Just when I was talking about how well Cruz defended the
15-30.
return to serve drive by keeping her paddle head up high, she dipped her paddle, Mark.
But that is one of the strengths of Dardis' game, that big
15-40.
forehand return. Chance to get off to a big start.
So already an adjustment. Gabby and Liz just staying behind the baseline, giving up the net. Little sneak move in by Gabby, kind of caught Amy flat-footed.
30-40.
I love the creativity with their formations.
Niculescu's done a great job with that last couple of years. Such a smart way to play.
Little high for a drop shot. But Gabby didn't. She just resisted, put the ball up. Pretty disciplined play.
It was more your short volley. Pull them out of position. Whatever you can do with the net to create movement of the team in the backcourt, that's going to benefit you.
Great cover from Cruz there. She was the trailer on that play and just threw up a lob when the ball flew by Gabby.
Gabby. Niculescu with a surprise backhand.
Deuce.
Had Dardis leaning to the middle. I'm not
What a
sure
smart
why.
shot. She just went off speed.
But that's where she should have been, covering her line.
Advantage
Rare
for Shay.
volley error from Niculescu. Dardis and Shay need to close these games. They have to take advantage of this.
And as good volleyers as Cruz and Niculescu are, Mark, the fact that they yielded really early on there is probably something from some past experience. And
Deuce.
sometimes when the baseline team's firing and their forehands are really just crushing your serve, they kind of try to take away that play.
Cruz catches the let cord there.
But it's funny, the whole game Gabby's sort of played Johan like singles, charge the net, almost a tennis type of point.
Advantage, Miss Niculescu.
It's a surprising miss from Liz Cruz.
Deuce.
I think she's standing too deep when Gabby's serving here. I mean, I know they're trying to not show their hand on the formation, but I don't know.
Advantage, Miss
I like her
Niculescu.
playing in. And I love this play right now for Gabby and Liz.
Yeah, I like her playing in too. Even if Niculescu stays back, Cruz takes a step to the middle, kind of squeezes the court a little bit on Shay.
Great drive. She took it right at Liz. Wow.
That is just such a good forehand. She is
Game,
just
Cruz,
devastating off the deck.
Niculescu. Dardis and Shay lead 2-1. First set.
Yeah, to me, the margin between these teams isn't that great, but the Dardis and Shay have to take advantage of their opportunities. Cruz and Niculescu have to have a lot less go right in order for them to win. Patty, you have some results for us from the tournament?
I do. Last chance Clutterbuck and Royak, I think, defeated a team. Mark, help me with this one.
No, Patty.
Caponari and Thornton. And all the players out here are guaranteed at least 3 matches. And some of them play well into the second day. They get their money's worth in these APTA sanctioned events.
Kim
Mark,
Fiedler, Sally McPherson on the 32 last chance.
they beat
Annalise Ackerman and Lauren Ballinger. Denise Murphy and Lynn Schneebeck over Ali Hand and Emmy Heil in the round of 32 console. Laura Barrett and Allison Morgan over Freddie Goldenberg and Eva Radvaska in the 16 reprieve. Okay, Amy Shea to serve. Patty, I thought you handled that very well.
Thanks, Mark, for helping out. You're a team player. I do much better when people text it to me, Mark. I think Dardis and Shay let Cruz and Niculescu off the hook right there. I think that was a key game, and even though it was really early in the set, you know, Gabby and Liz seemed to be searching for some answers and, you know, lucked out to win that game a little bit.
Dardis got beaten down her line twice. It looked like Liz Cruz could let that ball through, but her paddle
15
decided
love.
otherwise.
And to
Yes.
Amy and Cynthia's credit, they are starting to load up on some of those flatter, harder overheads. I saw it in their semifinal win over Van Sterenberg and Hanisch, and I think last season, when the season was over, they knew they had to add more of those shots to try to get some easy winners. And I don't mean easy winners, just a quick winning shot from time to time versus having to play 50 shots to win a point out here.
Liz Cruz is one of the best in the game at handling that hard overhead. Couple of great lobs from Niculescu. Opens up the court, and here she comes.
Look at Cynthia dance.
She misses the lob long.
15 all.
Niculescu is such a dynamic player. Just puts so much pressure on you all the time.
We talk all the time about momentum in matches, and you can just feel the shift occurring here.
15-30.
Even though it's early, there was just a shift in the last 3 points.
Hit the ball.
Taste of her own medicine.
Mm-hmm.
That must have
30
felt
all.
good for Dardis. Dardis and Shay switching into their customary positions at the net. That's Shay overhead in the middle.
Smart move by Cruz to let that ball just hit the screen and come way out with it.
Niculescu caught out of position a little bit there.
40-30.
Yep, they
Game
convert
Dardis
that
and
game
Shay.
point to go up
They lead the
3-1.
First set, 3-1.
Serve is the one flaw you see on the Cruz Niculescu do, isn't it, Patty?
Well, I was thinking about if they had a weakness in their game, it would be that they don't bring much heat on their serves, and you can see that caused them to give up the net early on. And in the women's
Love
game,
15.
there's so many tremendous return of serves compared to serves. We don't hear ourselves saying, "Oh my gosh, look at that great serve."
And I noticed Amy Shay wearing an armband for the first time. Oh, great exchange at the net. Wonderful pickup from Shay. Ball
I saw
called out.
Relax. The ball was on the line.
Rob Laboon tells everybody to relax, takes charge, overrules the call, said it was good. Love 30.
Love 30.
Really well handled by chair umpire Laboon. He's very good out there. He's in charge.
He's done a wonderful job with it this weekend.
I should mention the only match we didn't talk about
15-30.
was the quarterfinal reprieve, which is being contested right now between McNitt and Nusslock, playing against Lemery and Rohrbach.
And Lemery Rohrbach won the first set 6-4, and when we look around and you look at the depth in the women's game and the talent, I love to see what's going on out here. These girls are
15-40.
battling it out. Final of that quarterfinal reprieve, and these are for ranking points to determine seedings as we go through the season.
Another great hard overhead from Liz Cruz. Surprising miss from
Game,
Niculescu there, and it's
Dardis and
4-1.
Shay. They lead 4-1. First set.
I knew
Dardis.
that Amy Shay had some arm issues, a little bit of a struggle out here for her,
The
and
heater's on
I'm
or
sure
off?
playing with the wet ball this
On.
morning that gets heavier, loses its flocking. That makes it tough.
And what do you think of the pink gloves, Patty?
I love the pink gloves. Mark, I can get you a pair.
Please.
And Amy is one of the few players who wears a glove on her right hand. I don't see anyone else in the game who keeps a right hand on in tank top weather.
Did you see Cynthia Dardis in her semifinal had her right hand in a garbage bag?
She's resourceful.
Very creative.
So Dardis and Shay, 4-1 first set.
15 love.
A little surprised.
Hey, Dardis and Shay are taking advantage of their opportunities, and Cruz Niculescu seem a little bit slow there. Although I'm not exactly sure what Shay was
15
doing there,
all.
Patty.
What are the odds of a 3-set match here, Mark? I ask Mark that question all the time. Anytime Dardis and Shay are in a match, we're likely to see 3 sets. See, I like a little bit of oomph out of that deuce court return from Liz
15-30.
Cruz. She is so talented, and I think they're going to play better if she can apply a little pressure. I feel like sometimes she kind of sits back, gives Gabby the offensive shots, but Liz can deliver big time on her own. She's a former national champ with Anna Brazova. Did they win out here in Chicago, Mark?
In Chicago, 2015. Couple of clever shots from Cruz.
Yeah, she can bring some crafty little shots off of the screens.
A little miscommunication there. Niculescu thought Cruz was going to take it,
30 all.
and she wasn't ready.
Gabby's going to tell Liz what she should be thinking moving forward here, Mark. Is Gabby the captain?
Yeah, I'm not sure who the captain on this team is, Patty.
30 all.
Gabby's definitely the little bit more demonstrative of the players, and she'll be much more verbal out there.
Great foot movement. Niculescu is not who you want to hit the hard overhead at. Another miss from Niculescu, a chance to go up 5-1.
40 30.
Gabby doesn't seem to be displaying a lot of patience right now, Mark.
Patty, we have a special guest announcer joining us for the final. Some people refer to her as the Dutch girl, Myrta Molenveld. Myrta, welcome to the booth.
Thank you, Mark.
You guys had a big win in the quarters, and then this morning the conditions were really tough in the bad weather. Tell me a little bit about playing against Cruz and Niculescu. You've had some experience with it now.
That's correct. We played them 2-3 weeks ago in Pittsburgh when it was quite hot and sunny. And Gabby was playing the deuce side at the time, and today it was rainy and she was playing the ad side. Played with the same partner, Liz Jaffe. Today was very interesting. I'd actually never played in the rain before, so
So that must have gone well.
I guess, maybe next time I practice when it rains, I'm not going to cancel it. It's a very different game. The ball, I didn't feel I had a grip on any ball really. It's really hard to get in a rhythm to actually even see the ball because the rain took over quite heavily at times. And when you have a couple of opportunities against Liz and Gabby, you really have to take them, and if you don't, they come right back into the match, and that's what happened today. Unfortunately, we gave them a way back in when we were up, and we got to learn from that and keep working hard, play a little smarter.
APTA Hall of Famer Scott Manzinger is known for taking a hose out in the court, spraying the court down on a beautiful sunny day, and playing an hour in a wet court. Maybe you should get Martin Bostrom to help you with that.
I think I have to pay him a lot of money to help me with that. But it may be a good idea.
So what do you see so far in this match, Myrta?
I feel like Liz and Gabby are a little tentative at times. You know, Amy and Cynthia haven't really missed any balls yet. They've been playing very steady, very smart, and they always play smart. You know, they know what to do. They know where to hit the balls. They know the spots
And
to
why
find.
don't you elaborate that a little bit? When you're playing against Cruz Niculescu, what are your safe spots? What are your targets when you're at the net?
You know, I thought there were at times a couple of openings in the middle. I think because they may be a new team, and especially when they're in the net, there were some openings. We got them there a few times, and I think they start picking up on that and closing a lot better. On the back court, I also believe the middle is a really good spot. They still look at each other like, I take it, you take it. I think there's some room there. You don't want to give Gabby that one. You know, I think Gabby is the one that when she gets that inside-out forehand, it's dangerous.
Yeah, she hits it in a lot of places.
And Liz, you know what you're going to get there. You know, it's always going to be a ball back. One more. She's never going to give up in that corner.
There's the miscommunication we talked about earlier happening again.
Is that
Patty,
the
any
third-
questions for Myrta?
The third nick that I don't think they defended, which is kind of surprising. Mirta, I've watched your development
Yep,
as
Liz
a
and Gabby.
player over the
Liz and
last
Gabby.
couple seasons,
Liz and
and
Gabby.
I think you have a
serve.
gigantic
Gabby serve.
upside. I think that you're only tapping
You already started
into
the other point, but I was
some of
gonna
the
correct
skills
that.
that you bring over to
You
the
had already
paddle
started the
from
other point.
tennis. And, you know, I'm curious what it is when you watch the players who are getting deeper in the draws consistently. What is it that they do that you
About
know
30.
you have to do now? Have you figured that piece of the puzzle out?
I think
30.
it's playing the big points a little bit smarter. I feel like at any point I feel like especially this tournament I was in it's just the big points when you're up we can't give them anything, and I think
15,
sometimes
30.
I come a little loose and get a little excited maybe. Maybe a little impatient. And I think that's the biggest thing, just playing a little bit smarter on the big points. And even if it's not a big point, every point is big in paddle because the momentum shifts so quickly. And I think that's something as a fairly newer player I'm obviously having to learn, that it's not like tennis. You know, you miss a return and it's okay. In paddle, it just goes quick, very, very quick. So I think it's the bigger points, playing them a little bit better. And obviously it's my almost 3 years of playing here, of playing paddle, and there we go.
We picked up the nick there.
And I do feel playing with Liz here this last two tournaments, she plays a very, in a way, traditional style. She lobs a lot. She lobs amazing. She's very smart. She throws in her little trick shots that she has, and I know exactly what I'm getting from her. And it's amazing to play next to somebody that knows the game and is never going to miss a screen, and lobs phenomenal and really fights for every point. And I think I feel like playing with her, I've grown a lot as a player these last two tournaments, and I'm excited to see where the season is taking me.
30 all. Couple of opportunities gone for Dardis and Shay.
And Mirta, I love your comment and how highly you regard Jaffe as a competitor in the sport, and she's been around a long time, and she always finds a way and a willingness to compete, and it's a great pairing for you early on in your career here for a couple of tournaments.
I absolutely agree, and she
30, 40.
made sure that when I miss a return, she's never going to miss one right after me, and it's very comforting to know that we're always going to get a point started, even if I'm maybe doing a little bit of stupid things occasionally. But, you know, I think that's it's phenomenal to have somebody that knows the game next to you. Oh,
In a typical game, Mirta, how many return to serve
Excuse me,
errors?
Patty. Great get there from Shay.
That was
Takes us to
phenomenal.
5-2.
They lead
How many
5-8
return to
to
serve
the
errors
third
do you
set.
think a team in the highest level of play can make and still win the game?
Ball, ladies.
you know, it's a risk reward, right? You put some pressure on the return. You make them miss some serves occasionally by putting that pressure on, or making them shift at the net, or going to some formations. And I pretty go big on any return. And
Drop the other one outside, Cynthia.
I always feel like I said to Liz earlier after the match, I said I felt like usually I feel like I have an 80% success rate on my returns, and today it was maybe more like a 60%, and it's too low to get points started if you only make about 60%. And I think the return and is just as important as making the serve. And I think it should be more. I feel like I should get it up to about 90% potentially to really put the pressure on the top 4 or 5 teams in the country. And that's where, in order to beat them, you got to get a higher percentage returns in, and just got to keep playing.
I think that's a great point.
Okay, so Amy Shay to serve, 5-2 first set, women's final, 44th annual Chicago Charities.
Shout out to Shannon Vinson, our tournament director for all the APTA Grand Prix events.
The players are switching balls every 7 games, so Shay has a new ball to serve here. Yeah, we've seen some surprising shots from Cruz and Niculescu. That one as well. Kind of a slice forehand into the net.
I think that's what happens with Cruz sometimes. She'll back off the offense, and then it's hard to dial it back up.
Couple of fast misses
30
from
love.
Cruz and Niculescu takes Dardis and Shay 2 points from the set.
Taking a little more time here, not a surprise. They know how important it is to try to close this first set out.
Thirty 15.
I think it was smart to take so much time after they'd won 2 fast points.
Probably not.
Yeah, that's
I mean,
a ball
they
that I
just-
think Amy
30
Shay's
all.
got a retreat on. I don't know why she waited for it there.
She had a work stoppage, Mark. And Mark, what I mean by that is she just was in trouble on the point, and she just wasn't in a position to take off to, race it down, chase it down off that back screen.
There's a winning hard overhead. Caught Liz Cruz too deep in the court.
40 30.
And that takes us to set point.
Love the combination. One from Cynthia, then one from Amy. They did it together as a team. Not surprising.
What do you think they're talking about here, Myrta?
I would like to know that too.
Don't hit to Gabby beforehand.
I'm
Don't
sure.
fault.
I oof.
Deuce.
They may have had the wrong chat.
Maybe I did not want to know. I think it was more the placement of the serve, I think, on what was going on there.
Cruz and Niculescu did this yesterday in their quarterfinal match against Cruz and Redesno, where they were down double set point at 5-2, and they just tightened everything up. Gabby stopped missing, and they ran him over on the last 5 games of the set. And that would not surprise me if we saw that here.
There we go.
They are catching a lot of nicks over there.
Yep, and that's the first time Cruz and Gabby figured it out.
Maybe they're taking lessons from Mark Parsons on how to find the nick. Berta, we were talking earlier about how much Niculescu's lobbing has improved. Do you find that to be the case?
Absolutely. I think she's gotten a lot more patient, and it's harder and harder to beat her because she's working the point a lot more and cannot just close in anymore all the time. You really have to work the point with her now, and it's also wearing you out a lot more, constantly going back on the overheads, closing back in because she can drive and lob. And I actually caught us a couple of times, and I thought she was going to lob us earlier, and she drove us, or she drove the ball, and vice versa.
And that point
so
was a great
steady.
example of what you were talking about. Big shift in the match. They had that set point. Niculescu hit a high forehand, kind of soft, that Dardis could have volleyed, chose to let go, couldn't chase it down. And the match may have turned there. Haven't won a point since.
30 love.
A little bit of an indecisive forehand from Liz Cruz. Myrta, are you familiar with serves like that missed the box by a little bit?
I'm very familiar with it.
Kind of trying to forget that memory already. This morning I may have missed the box by about 6 feet.
Well, you hit the other box.
I did, and Gabby thought I was serving to her. Yeah, made me laugh. A little raindrop. It was raining quite hard, and I completely missed the ball. And I probably should have retossed that ball and just gone again instead of, trying to make magic happen.
Another great lob from Niculescu.
That's the middle.
Yeah, a little confusion at the net there. That ball belongs to Niculescu.
Youth.
2 points from the set. Really important for Dardis and Shay to win their first set, don't you think so, Myrta?
I mean, yes. But no matter what, I mean, the first set is just the start, because the points are so quick. No matter who wins this first set, I think it's going to be very, very close. The second set and potentially a third set once it gets there.
Set point again.
That was a big miss from Niculescu right there. They had the perfect setup. Just blew that backhand volley long.
Catches the
wow.
nick.
Smart.
Game in first set. Dardis Shay. We'll be back in a moment after these messages right here on the APTA Network, presented by eNet Live.
You have to have a passion for taking care of the customer, and you have to do your job as if your last name was Uline.
For my business, everything's go, 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 and the customer service alone is one of the most valuable things for us. We can call and the phone's picked up immediately. We never have to wait in a queue.
The phones don't ring at least half the time because they go directly into the headsets of our customer service representatives because they know we're waiting for it, and it can be a very fast transaction for them.
Order placed by 6 o'clock p.m., order ships out, customer gets that product more often than not in one business day.
Not only are those orders going out the door quickly but accurately,
We live and breathe reliability.
But we really do care if a product's returned. We do care if it's not working right. We try to do it better every day.
Every single person looks at customer comments. I mean, that's where we learn.
Come to Uline because service has always been much, much better here. I always feel like you're treated like you're appreciated, you know.
We do it well. We do it real well.
Once a customer gets used to that, why would you want to leave? We treat you well.
Charities were in the finals of the women's tournament. Cruz and Niculescu just lost the first set to Dardis and Shay. Patty, Myrta, what are your thoughts on what they have to do to turn things around?
I think for Cruz and Niculescu, it's simple. I think that their communication is lacking out here. I feel like they're standing around, kind of waiting a little bit, reacting a little bit late. That lob that went through at this level of play was kind of shocking to me, and I think they simply just have to get on the same page together, and that's what we always see from Dardis and Shay. And they are still a newer team. They've won the first 2 tournaments they played this year, but I mean, Dardis and Shay have showed up here, and to their credit, they are the most incredible competitors, and they've dialed it up here in the first set. But I think Cruz and Anika right now have to just get on the same page.
Myrta, what are you seeing out there?
I must agree with Patty. I think there's still some confusion going on, and I think they got to obviously keep talking. And the thing is that Amy and Cynthia they can see it like no other where the errors are and where they're struggling, and they've been taking full advantage of that. So I can only imagine they're going to keep targeting those shots where it's going to cause confusion. So I think that Gabby and Liz just got to stay patient and keep talking here.
And what are the shots that cause confusion, Myrta?
Then obviously Amy and Cynthia have been hitting the nick quite a few times, and they seem a bit confused. Right in the middle of the court, there seems to be some confusion on who's going to take the ball, and we'll see what's going to happen here.
Okay, Cynthia and Dardis to serve to Liz Cruz. First game, second set.
If I'm Dardis and Shay, I don't bring Gabby into this match here, Mark. I would freeze her out. I think Gabby gets more and more dangerous the more she moves around, the more shots she hits. I would go after Cruz in that deuce court.
Great drop shot there from Dardis. Is that the best drop shot in the women's game, Patty?
I've seen it. I think it is. And that's knowing the right time to use it when you have a player kind of on the defensive with their weight back. Throw in that drop.
So Amy Shay swings and misses, but smartly. You think she let that go intentionally?
For sure, Mark. I just think Dardis and Shay are playing at a beautifully high level. They have some confidence. And I would just keep the ball away from Gabby.
Patty, do you think that Cruz and Niculescu took them a little lightly, having beaten them 3 times in a row?
I don't think so. Absolutely not.
That's my accent, Mark.
You've got a
I
beautiful
said
Dutch
Patty.
accent. Why don't you elaborate on that, Myrta?
Amy and Cynthia, they know the game, and they always have a strategy and a plan, and I think that they know what they have to do, and they're going to stick with their plan, and they know where the weaknesses are, having been around so much longer than than some of the younger, newer generation here playing paddle. And I'm sure after the match they've talked and discussed, and they probably rewatched their match and figured out where they won the points and where they lost the points. And I'm sure they had a new strategy ready for today's match.
They've been very effective in that hard overhead into Cruz. Won a number of points that way.
And I think they're smashing the overheads, keeping both players a little bit wrong-footed at times here. I mean, they're taking away what Cruz and Niculescu do really well here. I think they're off balance from the baseline, and they're struggling at the net with the little communication we already spoke about. So Dardis and Shay, 6-3, up 1-0. We're in the finals of the Chicago Charities. Second stop on the APTA Grand Prix Tour.
Headed to Long Island next. First weekend in December.
This is
Wayne
Liz
Hayden
Cruz
and Tim
serving.
Mankin put on a great show.
Sorry, Mark. That's Cynthia Dardis in the reddish Nantucket red t-shirt. To her left, Amy Shay hitting another slice overhead. And that's Niculescu lobbing out of that deuce corner with the red paddle.
And Cruz and Niculescu seem content to stay on the sides they don't customarily play here.
I think they've gone back and forth with who should play what side. They're both amazing out of both sides, and you know, it's all about matchups, so good for them to try to figure out a little bit of a different formula.
Great hands from Shay, staying the point. Mirta, what challenges does Niculescu present from the deuce court that she doesn't from the ad? Where do you prefer playing against her?
From my perspective,
There's that big hard overhead.
I think she does not seem as comfortable on the deuce side, even though I think it will be good for her to play there. I just don't think she's played enough matches on that side, and therefore, at the end of the day, whatever side you've played the most, your confidence is especially on big points, is going to be much greater. So I think that's why they made the switch back potentially to her on the ad side. It's just because of the confidence that Gabby has in her shot on the ad side on the big points.
Liz Cruz has missed a few more balls than you'd expect today. That Les volley error was a surprising one, don't you think, Patty?
Yeah, she's not found her stride yet in this match. And I think that's when you're playing with Gabby, I think you kind of yield the floor a little bit and let Gabby do her thing. And then it's kind of hard when you're the second fiddle sometimes to know when you're going to actually get to hit a ball versus when Gabby decides that she's not going to hit that ball.
But Cruz was second fiddle last year when she played with Roxy and Ika also. So it's a role she's familiar with.
I just think when they both fire, they're so explosive, really difficult to match up against. But to Dardis and Shay's credit, they've kind of kept her out of this match.
40-30.
You don't see Cruz and Niculescu really building points and having success in something repeatedly, Mark. I don't see it yet.
We talked earlier about tempo, Patty. You don't see a lot of long grinding points being played by Dardis and Shay. And there's the Niculescu forehand from the deuce side. Takes us to 1-all.
Well, I saw some of Gabby's play on the live stream from Mixed Nationals last year when she teamed up and won it with Drew Broderick, and she was over in that deuce court. And when someone hung out an overhead over there, she fired. And I just can't believe they hung that ball out to her on a game point right there, Mark. I would definitely hit up to the middle towards her backhand if she is in that deuce court. I would not bring her forehand into play at all from that deuce side.
Ball called long and confirmed by chair umpire Rob LeBoon. Mert, I'm going to put you on the spot. You know how much I like to do that.
Huh.
Who do you think is going to win?
You know, I think that Gabby and Liz are gonna find a way to win this match based on Pittsburgh's results and Patterson results, but I can't really guarantee that at all. It's a close one. They're gonna fight to the last point, and
so you're hedging your bets?
You're sounding like a politician.
15-30.
That doesn't sound good to me.
I don't think it was intended as a compliment, actually.
No.
Take a stand, Mirta. Come on, pick the winner. We'll pick a winner if you pick a winner.
All right, Gabby and Liz.
Yeah, I think you like Cruz and Niculescu until they're shaking hands, and maybe even after that. You can see that Niculescu forehand is starting to do some damage. Well, I would love to see the weather hang in like this rest of the day, Patty.
It would be great. We have some exciting men's matches queued up here this afternoon, and I think some round of 16 matches are already underway.
Liz Cruz with another miss, a lob. You do not see that happen too often. That's the other thing I think we've seen more from Niculescu this year is her willingness to change speeds. In the past she had one speed, now she has multiple ones.
And she's been to the gym, Mark. I'm not sure a lot of us could pull off that sleeveless look out here.
Well, I know Murta could.
Huh.
Cruz misses the forehand wide, takes us back to deuce. A
Deuce.
plethora of errors coming off her paddle right now.
And this is great news for Dardis and Shay because they need, I said it before, they need to keep Abby out of it and be willing to win or lose the match against Liz, I think.
Right now that's a winning strategy.
But we've always seen Cruz make adjustments, so there's no doubt she'll make another one here. But if we go a little deeper in the set and nothing's changed, Dardis and Shay could be pulling off an upset here. Question mark for me, Mark and Mirta, would just be, can they close this match? It's too early to be talking about closing the match out.
Advantage, Miss Shay.
But they just have a tendency to play so well and then let opponents in. Then you get to the third set and it's anyone's match.
Great volley there from Shay, takes them to game point. That is a big ball.
Deuce.
Dardis is one of the best volleyers in the game. That ball just had a lot of heat on it. Mirta, I noticed you're volleying more with two hands on the backhand side. Can you talk a little bit about that transition?
I think when I started playing, I think my tennis volley is a one-hander, and when I started playing paddle, I assumed that's what I had to be doing, just because that's what I do in tennis. And I really found that I had too much movement going on in my volleys because of the one-hander. And I think this year I've picked it up and started going a lot more with my two hands, and I feel that it became a little simpler, a little steadier, and you don't have to do that much on the volley and paddle. And I think this year it's helping my game quite a bit. I'm getting a lot more comfortable with it. So sometimes I guess the things you do in tennis don't translate the way they do in paddle, and I just don't think I realized it until this year that
I think that's a great comment. I noticed how much lower you're getting on the ball too.
And I think having that second hand on the paddle helps your timing on volleys. And you watch the highest level in the sport, men or women, and they wait longer to hit the ball. And in tennis, you're so used to attacking on your volley early.
Right.
Paddle, it's about waiting and absorbing. And that second hand kind of helps with the timing of it.
Right. It doesn't get so far ahead of myself when I have the second one on the paddle. And I think, especially when you're trying to close and move forward, sometimes I got way ahead of myself with that. And
when you say way ahead of yourself, why don't you elaborate on what that means in English?
in English, I thought I was speaking English right now.
Advantage, Miss Niculescu.
You know, as tennis players, we tend to step towards the ball, and your arms are out in front, and you go meet that ball, and you know, your shoulders obviously don't turn the same way as they would do in tennis, in paddle. And I think by it's almost making it two different sports, right? Whereas before I was playing maybe a little tennis on the paddle court, stepping towards the ball, whereas with my one-handed volley and with paddle, when I have my two hands on the racket, on the paddle, I think it's almost easier to differentiate between the two sports, and I don't step in as much to the same ball. That's kind of what I mean by getting ahead of myself in this game.
I think that's a great comment.
And the other piece of volleying is, in tennis, you go for open spots, lots of angles cross court. In paddle, that causes your team to shift, and you can't get caught out of position. So waiting and volleying many more shots that go straight ahead, which you would never do in tennis.
Correct.
Really work to your benefit for net coverage.
Okay, Niculescu to serve, 2-1, second set. Another game Dardis and Shay could have won, a couple of missed volleys. Niculescu really took over that game with her forehand. Patty, most teams when they stay back, you'll find the deuce court player will stand to the right of the server regardless of where she's serving. In this case, we don't see that. Do you think there's any reason for it?
I think if I understand your question, you're asking about the positioning of the partner of the server?
Yep.
Who can really stand anywhere she wants. She could stand up at the gate, on the door or on her way out.
Yeah, here Liz Cruz is playing the deuce court most of the match. Niculescu is serving to the deuce court. Cruz could easily stand to the right of Niculescu, but has chosen not to.
Sometimes you do it because you're anticipating where the returner is going to hit the shot, and maybe you can put your strengths over in those spots. I think it's always good to throw out all different formulas out there. Don't let them get used to seeing the exact same thing.
Love 15.
Missed forehand there from Niculescu.
Again, Cruz and Niculescu just giving up the net. Early on, I loved it as a strategy. I'm not loving it now.
No, I'd much prefer to see the person in net play I formation, let some balls through, but put so much more pressure on the returner than just giving them an open court.
Or maybe Australian and pick and create some movement up there. Maybe let your partner at the net assume some more responsibility for some of the return to serve drives.
Myrta, you got a great return serve. How do you like it when the other team stays back? I mean, how do you adjust to that?
I may have still a couple nightmares from actually the match I played against
40.
Gabby and Liz. I was returning really, really well, and I haven't seen it that much that they both stay back. I think a lot of teams use the Australian a lot more than actually completely giving up the net. Gabby gave up the net a couple times against me, and I don't think I put a return in the box that match.
So it worked against you.
Worked against me. I think it was the different look, the hesitation, not having the exact spot on where you want to hit the return. The court became quite big out of nowhere and still couldn't find it. And sometimes it's a lot harder when you don't have that specific target of somebody running in or the net player that's there. And the court was much bigger and couldn't find it. Gives a different look, different mentality behind it.
What will you try and do differently next time?
Against Gabby and Liz?
Yeah, if they stay back to you.
I think probably picking my spots a little bit better. I think I was so surprised to what was happening there that it went quick. You miss it and it's gone, and you're still thinking about it, and you get one more, and you want that one again. And so I'll probably just pick my targets a little bit better, and maybe even go out and practice a few times with somebody actually staying back, and just to see that same look a little bit more than
A great get from Niculescu.
I would keep taking the hard flat overheads at Liz. She's struggled to adjust on those out of that deuce corner here.
Even in the ad corner, she just missed one last game. That was a rare instance where Gabby got a little impatient. This is conference 1272 for Dardis and Shay. That's this tournament.
And that's one way that they slow down the pace of play.
Why do you think they're playing I formation against Liz Cruz, who has not hurt them with her return to serve?
It might be just to take a little pressure off of Cynthia's first volley here. I think Amy sometimes is a little bit of a better low volleyer than Cynthia.
We talked about it last night. Sometimes I think it's too much respect, especially with that Cruz backhand, where she's very, very comfortable hitting it down the line.
Sometimes as a server, you are more comfortable having your partner stand with the eye or the Australian formation. It may be about that and the server's confidence in a moment rather than what the baseline team is doing.
A couple of the hard overheads you talked about. Some great volleying from Dardis from off the net. Lemery and Rohrback won the quarter back draw over McNitt-Nusslock. This is the last women's match of the 2017 Chicago Charities. Shay misses that volley long, 40-15.
15-40.
Mirta, what advice do you have for Cruz to defend those flat overheads that they're kind of breaking her down on here? What advice, what would you do?
I think that she needs to start running ahead a little bit earlier than she has been. Right now she's trying to block some even, just so they won't get into the screen, but it's really hard to control that hard overhead to get that back in the court. So I think she just needs to get, once she sees it coming, make sure she doesn't wait and watch and take a step back. Just get going on it.
They lead the second
And
set,
maybe
3
just
games
make a
to 2.
decision earlier that
Dardis
she's
and
playing
Shay
a
won the first
screenshot
set,
like you're
6
saying,
games
and
to
then
3.
just take off. Let Gabby cover anything that flies out in the middle.
Correct. Exactly right.
Because the deeper she's playing, she's almost allowing Dardis and Shay to hit that shot.
To hit that shot. Correct.
The APTA thanks our official sponsor, Save a Tree, the green choice for tree, shrub, and lawn care. Let Save a Tree focus on your landscape so you can focus on your game and enjoy every outdoor moment at home or at play. Save a Tree provides environmentally sensitive services to properties in the Northeast, Mid-Atlantic, Midwest, and Western regions. Contact them at saveatree.com for a complimentary landscape assessment by a knowledgeable arborist. And it's not true that Jerry Vian is home taking care of her 100-acre estate. She's got the flu. Match kind of shifted again, hasn't it?
15.
And it won't be the last shift mark. It's what we've grown to expect here in platform tennis. Highest levels of play. So often it comes down to what team makes the last great adjustment.
Boy, that Shay forehand, she hits it in so many places. I think it's the most versatile forehand in the game, Myrta.
30.
I think so, yes. It's a real weapon, and anytime you hit it there, you better be ready for something.
Was that what happened to you in the semis right there?
30.
Pretty much the same thing, except I missed it wide 2 times.
Wide.
Yes.
Oh, back-to-back misses with him staying back. And
30 all.
all you're thinking is, don't miss it. It's interesting, and I think it's true in tennis as well, but sometimes it's not just winning the points, but how you win the points. And the thing that's interesting about paddle is the points seem to be connected in some way. They take on a flow based on the play. Think that's true, Patty?
Mark, I think everything you say is true.
Oh, that's not true, Patty. So you've lost a lot of credibility there.
True or false, Mark? Most of what you say is true.
False.
Myrta, true or false? Most of what Mark says is true.
You know, I really like Mark, so I'm going to
Oh,
go with
this-
true.
Thank you, Myrta. Some great action here. Love how they handled the hard overhead there, exactly as you were saying earlier, Patty.
And this is the play with Gabby in that deuce corner, up the middle and over toward Liz. I just wouldn't give her a forehand here.
It's almost like Dardis and Shay don't adjust their strategy when Niculescu and Cruz switch sides. I mean, they're playing the deuce court constantly when Cruz is over there, and we've seen him hit the last 7, 8 balls in a row to Niculescu.
It's a little more vintage Cruz right there. Forehand drive followed by that two-handed backhand drive.
Yeah, that shot's going to have a lot less success against Niculescu than Cruz.
I'm really surprised they're playing her, giving her so many shots.
It's like poking the bear.
Cynthia made a good job there on that low backhand volley, which I was comparing the difference in volley style on the low volley, and Cynthia hits the ball flatter, sets her paddle face behind the ball. Amy gets a little bit more underneath the ball. It's with a little bit of
40.
underspin, and it's a lower bouncing shot.
Great lob there from Cruz, forces the error. Point for 4-2.
You kind of feel like Gabby's getting ready to explode here. I just think she's getting way too many shots. True or false, Mark? Is she getting way too many shots?
Yes, absolutely. Well, everything you say is true, Patty.
False.
Well, that's great variety from Dardis and Shay, really creating a lot of movement in the backcourt. And there's Liz Cruz trying to block the hard overhead unsuccessfully. Takes us back to deuce.
Mircha, where should Liz Cruz lob the ball when she's getting pummeled over there?
Obviously, if she's trying to get out of that corner a little bit more, I think her lobs obviously have to go a little bit more down the line. It's going to be a little harder to get that same angle for Amy especially. A little deeper potentially also, to get them a little bit further off the net to hit that ball.
She's really struggled with that backside ball, Patty. Surprised?
Games are 3-all.
I am. I
Second
think
set.
she's got to, go a little bit to her right, a little bit. I would get much closer to the side screen and totally change the overhead that they would hit and sort of bring the play more toward the back screen where Gabby could come in and help out.
And she hasn't attacked one of those down-up overheads, which we saw Florhanis do so successfully
Right,
yesterday.
but to Mircha's earlier point, Mark, not to disregard your comment,
Which was clearly true.
Liz has to take off right away. She's just got to go up that side screen, bring Gabby into the play behind her.
I also think that Liz hasn't seen enough of those balls maybe, and I think it's a shot that I think is happening more and more and more that we all do it. And I think Cynthia has been amazingly successful at it because everybody started hitting that overhead to her, and she's really learned to hit that ball. And I think it's the more balls we see like that, I think it will click at some point, and you just need one to click, and they'll all come.
Did you try this in your match with them this morning?
Not enough. We talked about it. Not sure if that counts for anything. We did mention it. I do find it's extremely difficult sometimes to target the deuce side player. It's a lot easier to go towards the ad side.
As a righty, when you play with a righty.
Correct.
Much tougher to defend the lobbing out of that deep deuce corner.
Correct. I don't think we have any lefties on the women's side.
That's remarkable, isn't it? There, Gabby misses the backside ball.
15-all.
Got to recruit some lefties.
Isn't that really surprising, Patty? When was the last good women's lefty that you remember? We'll get back to you on that.
Can you ask me it as a true or false question, please? Not multiple choice or short answer. Mary Lobel.
Whoa.
Going way back. Shout out to Mary. Down in Savannah, I believe. Dardis and Shay are just totally comfortable as a net team here in this match.
And they do such a great job of moving at the net, shifting positions. And there's another miss from Liz Cruz on that hard overhead. Mircha, that's something I think that's been a real improvement in your game, is your movement at the net. You must have worked hard on that.
Well, I can thank Mark Fisher for that. He's been very generous for 3 years to practice with me on Tuesdays with Carrie Flynn and Matt. And worked very hard on that. As we know, Carrie Flynn has some unbelievable volleys, and she closes really well. And I think the constant pressuring of that type of play is, really significantly helped me. And
30 all.
Mark always tell me the truth in practice, and sometimes it wasn't always what I wanted to hear, maybe. But at the end of the day, I think you need to hear those things in order to improve. And
big shout out to Carrie Flynn, who's recuperating from ACL surgery.
Flynn Tarzian, one of the greatest performances. Finals, the women's nationals. They had an unbelievable run in Pittsburgh and came up a little bit short. I think 8-6 in the third mark.
10-8.
10-8 to Vicky Anana.
Staklasova Brazova.
And I think of Carrie Flynn's closing volleys and that two-handed backhand.
Point for 4-3.
Wow.
That serve missed by 1.5 yards.
It didn't seem like she was ready to hit her putt on that shot there, Mark. She kind of got out of her own tempo and should have just let that ball drop. Shouldn't have hit it.
Shay gets a little yippy on her serve, too, to continue your golf analogy.
Well, we all do, and the bigger the moment, it's a little bit more nerve-wracking, and if you don't hit that serve with a lot of spin, it's hard to gauge that mile per hour.
But that was a great shot from Niculescu. It was a hard overhead, and she still picked it up off the deck and didn't give Dardis a chance to get back into position.
Did you see Cynthia duck? She thought Gabby was coming right at her there on that return.
Here they go with their strategy, the hard overheads into Cruz.
See, if I'm Liz, I would move in. She waited way too long. Again, she just played defensively out of that corner.
She's not taking one ball in the rise.
Right, she's not taking any time away from the net team. Even a chip floater cross court, it would just be a little disruptive here. I think Cynthia.
Lubauer here, Patty. He might say this is a big point. There it comes again. You surprised that Liz Cruz looks so out of sort, Marta?
A little bit, yes, but
she's such a solid player. Normally you don't see her miss too many shots.
The weather from this morning till now is very different, and even from yesterday again, very different conditions, and just a change of strategy, I think, by Amy and Cynthia. I don't think they've really played this way in any of the other tournaments, and she may be a little surprised that this is what's happening.
How do you think she should be adjusting?
Advantage, Miss Niculescu.
I think she's almost playing a little bit not to miss, rather than to find a way to win the point. I think she needs to put a little bit more pressure on that deuce side, so that they may avoid going to her again. But it's hard once you miss one and then you miss another one to get yourself mentally ready to try again and without messing up.
Great job scrambling there from Dardis and Shay. They looked like they were in trouble in that point, and they found the big Shay forehand, and they're back to deuce.
Even there on that return from Liz, I would have loved to have seen a little chip and charge. I mean, just something to create a little bit of offense, to Mirta's point.
Yeah, she just guided that ball.
I love how Gabby set her paddle so low for that overhead from Dardis. Easy to just lift another ball out of the screens. Again, Cruz is pretty deep back there. I think she heard you, Mirta. Bringing a little bit of heat there all of a sudden.
Good swing, catches the top of the tape. Interesting, Dardis and Shay were not looking for the switch at the net there. Any reason, or you think they forgot, Patty?
Well, I think they did that before, and Blake Anderson and Dave Broderick are watching at the Short Hills Club as they prepare for the 67th annual Short Hills Invitational in February, but they've been checking in with me, Mark, and they noted that earlier, that they didn't look for the switch sometimes with the play into that two-score.
There's a hold for Dardis and Shay, and they lead 4-3 second set.
Second set. Dardis and Shay won the first set.
So the big question, Mark, can they close this out here? When my answer, can you ask me now? True or false?
Patty,
do I think
true or
Dardis
false?
and Shay are going to
Dardis
win
and
in
Shay.
two?
Dardis and Shay are going to close this out in two.
Dardis and Shay are going to win this match in two.
That's true or false?
True.
Wow.
Bold choice.
You are nothing but not bold, Patty. Mirta, what do you think?
Listen, Gabby, in three. Gotta stick with my stance now. Here we go.
Oh no, we get to change our minds all the time. But I feel like Dardis and Shay have survived. They're up 4-3. Cruz and Gabby already have given up the net. I'm not loving the play right now. I just think Dardis and Shay seem calmer.
15.
They seem to be real comfortable. Every situation on the point, and I just don't see that comfort zone out of Niculescu and Cruz here.
Yeah, Liz Cruz has seemed out of sorts to me virtually the entire match. I don't know whether the strategies bother her, but she's missed a lot more balls than you'd expect to see.
We talked about tempo in the beginning, and that's what this is all about. When we talk about two-handed volleys there, sometimes Cynthia tends to hit a little early on that volley. She lets go of that second hand, and sometimes that can be the result.
Oh, Niculescu was on that ball.
She couldn't have asked for a better shot right
30.
now.
Fifteen 40.
True or false? My pick was looking like a good one. Great communication. Wow. That ball almost made it up to the net post.
Yeah, I'd like to have seen how close that
30,
was to
40.
the net post, because Dardis just kept running and running and running.
And she made it almost to the net post.
You would win the point.
Okay, another point for 5-3. Oh, that was a tight-looking serve, wasn't it?
Game, Dardis and Shay.
And Dardis and
They
Shay will
lead
serve
5
for the
games to
match
3, second
and
set.
prove Patty Hogan right.
But anything can happen.
And probably will. Gabby's going back to her jacket. That kind of an odd thing to do at 5'3". Viking Athletics is the premier brand and the undisputed leader in platform tennis. Viking is platform tennis. Okay, Cynthia Dardis to serve for the match. Wow.
15 love.
The Viking extruded platform ball has been the #1 selling ball in the industry for the last 20 years. It's the official ball of the APTA, of the APTA Nationals and President's Cup, and of the Grand Prix Tour. That's some pickup from Shay.
15 all.
Myrta, what would be going through your head right now, serving for the tournament? What would you be trying to do? What would you be focusing on?
Something that Liz and I focused on the tournaments that we played is really playing 1 point at a time and staying patient and not thinking about the actual score, just the point, 1 point at a time. The game shifts so quickly that you can't get ahead of yourself in this game.
Shay has volleyed brilliantly in this match. And here come the hard overheads.
Was this the same matchup from last year's semis here, Mark? Do you remember? I know you have an uncanny ability to remember things.
It takes us to double match point here, Patty. What's your question?
I'll ask you when we're off the air. Was this a rematch of
No,
last year's
no,
semi?
they didn't play together last
Roxy
year.
and Liz
Yeah.
maybe took out Dardis Shay.
Yes. Big forehand from Cruz. Looking for the nick. She finds it. Game, set, match. Dardis Shay. And they win the 44th Chicago Charities. We're going to take a quick message, take a moment for these messages, and then we're going to try and come back with an interview with our winners.
You have to have a passion for taking care of the customer, and you have to do your job as if your last name was Uline.
When it comes to the game of life, we're all on the same team. And success comes simply from trying. You don't have to be a celebrated athlete to celebrate being active. And you don't have to be on the field to have your own cheering section. United Healthcare.
Welcome back to the Chicago Charities. We just saw a surprising result in the women's final, Dardis Shay over Cruz Niculescu. Myrta, any final thoughts on the match?
Credits to Amy and Cynthia. They play phenomenal. They really stuck with their plan. They executed the plan, and then they never let Gabby and Liz get in the game. And it's phenomenal to see a different team win a Grand Prix this year.
Okay, well, Myrta, I want to thank you for joining us, and I want to say I'm hopeful that you're going to win a Grand Prix soon. And right now we're going to throw it out to Patty Hogan for an interview with our champions.
2017 Chicago Charities Tournament. I am Patty Hogan along with Cynthia Dardis and Amy Shay, the winners of the 2017 Women's Chicago Nationals. I mean, this tournament, the Charities, incredible. And you guys, I am so proud of you. I've seen you around for decades and decades, and you give me such faith. I mean, I love to watch you guys out here. You just pursued. You had a belief as a team, and it was just, that was an incredible win. You took away, it seemed, all the tools of the highly talented team of Gabby and Liz, and you guys were 0-3 against them. What were the keys to your victory? Amy, let's start with you.
Well, we've had an opportunity to play them now like 3 times. This is our third. This is our third. 2 recent other times, and I think we just sort of tweaked our strategy, and today it worked.
Do you want to reveal that strategy?
No.
Okay. Top secret. No one in America saw it.
Maybe, yeah. So we just tried something different, and I think it worked for us today.
Done. Well, thank you very much. I think we're done.
Okay, and Cynthia, you played great. What was the difference for you?
Having you comment on us, okay?
Yeah. Well, I'm happy to be your good luck charm.
Yes.
That's great. Congratulations. We'll throw it back to the booth and Mark Fischel.
Thank you.
We'll be back in a few minutes with our first men's quarterfinal. Right now, we're going to take a break for these messages right here on the APTA Network, presented by eNet Live.